आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
Our next story, we have a big news break coming up. In fact, let's go straight to it. We have some breaking news now on the debate. Abhishek?
Yes, sir.
I'll just give... Yeah, sure, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead, please go ahead.
We have a whistleblower letter, Abhishek, and this is a whistleblower letter, a DGCA insider. Someone right now inside the DGCA has written a letter, and this letter talks about how there is an unspoken pressure. The words used are unspoken pressure, Abhishek,
Yeah.
to go soft on a few airlines. This particular whistleblower has named Air India. And Abhishek, Shravan is joining us live. In fact, Shravan accessed the full letter. This is explosive because it's got details. He's gone into great details of specific incidents. He's a serving officer. This is just one part, right? Look at that. He says there are different portions. In fact, let's go one by one. Abhishek, I'll just take the first part and then you can take it from there. He says, I'm a serving DGCA official presently posted in the DGCA. He says, internal processes are no longer sufficient. There is a problem. He says, there was no serious criminal prosecution of Air India in many cases. He names a specific case of an airline, of a flight route where serious lapses were found. And yet, there is an unspoken pressure, he says, when it comes to Air India to just go slow, go soft, not to do anything, not raise it.
I think let's go to Shravan because there seem to be some very specific instances given in the report, Shravan, which you have accessed, which establish the kind of nexus that exists between these airlines, their management, and some levels of the DGCA, and that leads to compromise with security, safety, and overall, a compromise of the aviation sector safety standards. What light can you throw, Shravan? Because you have the report with you. Can you tell us so that the viewers are forewarned and hence forearmed?
Well, in fact, this is a letter that has been written by a serving DGCA officer. In fact, his name has been withheld here, keeping in mind that some serious issues have essentially been flagged off by the serving officer. Let me now take you through some of the details that he basically makes a mention of. And it also talks about what has been a national talking point, that is with regards to the FDTL norms and the fact that there is a pressure basically emanating from various airlines. I'm going to directly go to point number 3 because that's quite pertinent, because he makes a mention about the fact how repeated, and I'm quoting from this letter that I have, repeated internal warnings and concerns on fatigue, training, compliance culture and procedural shortcuts have been softened or diluted. Enforcement actions that would likely have been stringent for other carriers are being treated far more leniently. There is a strong unspoken pressure within sections of the DGCA and the ministry to avoid embarrassment and its new ownership, and to manage matters quietly and to initiate hard enforcement. Now, he basically justifies by saying why exactly he's writing this to the senior management of the DGCA. He says that I've attempted to raise concerns within the system. The response, however, has been to circumscribe the issue as an internal compliance lapse and to avoid any step that would lead to public, judicial and criminal scrutiny. He says that it is time for ensure that criminal conspiracy is properly investigated and fixed, break the cycle of quiet internal settlements, protect passengers from becoming unwitting subjects of experiments in manageable non-compliance. And he's asking for a PIL to be looked into the matter, a PIL to be filed. He's basically substantiated all of this. I'm not showing this because some of the documents that he has basically attached in the letter, they are confidential in nature and may not be appropriate to perhaps put this out unless a full-fledged investigation is essentially done. But it basically, once again, puts the spotlight on the malice that exists within the system right now. And the question that basically many are asking about whether at all DGCA, the regulatory body has now been compromised.
Yeah, I mean, that's something which, this is an idea which we keep coming back to since the AI 171 crash, Shawan. Thank you for getting those details. So let's have a quick conversation on this. Lokesh Jindal, political analyst, leans towards the BJP, joining us live from Nagpur. We have Parvez Damania, founder of Damania Airways, live from Mumbai. They sort of defend the DGCA. It would be interesting to find how. Jace Venkateshwar Rao, former General Secretary of Air India cabin crew, live from Mumbai. And I want to begin with Captain Meenu Wadia, so that we get the first firing salvo right there. Founder, Federation of Indian Pilots, Mr. Wadia. You heard Shawan, you heard those details of a letter which has been written to the DGCA exposing the rot. As I mentioned, from the time of the AI 171 crash to the latest FDTL row, and in fact the crash of Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar, the flight which carried him. This is a recurring theme, that maybe there seems to be a systems failure that's been building up for a while.
It's absolutely true. In fact, I'll add substance to what the letter has stated and what the whistleblower has stated about the DGCA letter. When pilots or even engineers have pointed out flaws in aviation safety to the airline, they have actually been sacked. Pilots and engineers have been sacked for pointing out faults on aviation safety. Now, since you're talking of aviation safety, we've heard all the channels repeatedly talking of aviation safety, that DGCA must be revamped and changed, etc. Let me give you some specific and clear examples substantiating my argument. For example, you had the mid-air collision in Chakri Dadri so many years back. Who did the inquiry? A judge did the inquiry. On the panel was also a director of air safety from Air India, a pilot. However, what did they do? The blame was on the pilot, didn't hear this. That's why the crash happened. Yes. I do not agree with that at all. For the simple reason, the system was not in place. The route was not unidirectional, and the crash took place. And no one from the DGCA or the airport authority was blamed even partially. Here, the 100% fault was with the DGCA. Also, when a lot of credit is given to the judges who do the inquiries, let me ask you a simple question. Will you authorize the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India to operate on you when you have a heart problem, a heart attack? He is not qualified to do an investigation on accidents happening in safety. You have to have professionals who are trained in accident analysis, and they have all over the world only professionals who are trained in accident analysis doing these inquiries. Not every Tom, Dick and Harry. Not even just normal pilots from the airlines. It is people who are trained in this subject. So that is the only main thing which is missing in India, and the DGCA has obstructed. They've actually obstructed from this happening. So if at all the accidents have happened not in spite of the DGCA, I would say that's happened because of the DGCA. And those are strong statements, and I stand by them.
Yes, sir. Mr. Damania, you look at, I'm just quoting some of the parts. In fact, this letter is so explosive, it's got internal communication. Lokesh Jindal, I'm coming to you. It's got internal communications within Air India. 52 pages, by the way, 52 pages, internal Air India communications, internal communications with DGCA. He talks about how there is an unspoken pressure within sections of DGCA and ministry. And he also says, and this unspoken pressure is to avoid embarrassment to Air India and the new ownership. Is it not true that some airlines have hijacked the DGCA, Mr. Damania?
Oh, see, I have no doubt of the fact that there are only two major airlines, and they hold major influence with DGCA. I don't doubt that at all. And the thing is, the DGCA also, handles them with kids' glove, because in a way we have to understand very clearly that we as a country and the government are really dependent upon these two airlines. Sometimes, even if the DGCA wants, it's very difficult to take very heavy steps against these two airlines, because we've realized what happened when IndiGo shut off for a week. So I don't think the DGCA is deliberately doing things wrong. But I also agree that DGCA cannot take very harsh measures which they would take in case there were 5-6 other players in the market. One of the major disadvantages we are in India is because we have a duopoly situation, and the DGCA also has to tread very carefully what it does tomorrow if they find the serious fault. Let's look at it, and they would. Can the DGCA and the Indian government afford to shut down an airline?
No, sir, you're wrong. Sir, you're wrong. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why you're wrong, sir.
Tell me.
There is a specific instance in this letter. Okay, it's not a vague letter, Abhishek. There's a specific instance. I'm going to read out the specific instance, and I want Mr. Rao to respond to it. Specific instance is, he says, and I quote, recently Air India operated an Airbus A320 aircraft VT-TQN on multiple revenue flights after expiry of its airworthiness review certificate or ARC.
That's very wrong. That's wrong.
Wait. He also says, in simple terms, aircraft which in law was not permitted to fly at all was permitted to carry passengers who paid money. They were making money off a plane which was not fit to fly. Point number one. Point number two, he says the findings within the DGCA, and this is the man who's inside DGCA as we speak. He's not some strange man. He's inside DGCA as we speak. He says it had expired. He says the lapse was detected only when an engineer during a layover transit check noticed the status. And then he says investigation acknowledges convergence of failures, not just with one officer. Air India's ARC cell, CAMO, MCC, planning, flight operations. It's not a single clerical error. And then wait for it. He says there is material to suggest that the expiry and need for a special permit/test flight were known within the system, and yet the aircraft was still released for passenger operations. Now, why am I saying all of this? What it proves is that there has been institutional negligence, criminal liability, and as per Aircraft Act 1934, Aircraft Rules 1937, safety barrier was breached, which means aircraft should be grounded. Internal corrective actions and process changes, limited departmental, measures. Now, all of this was taken instead of criminal measures being taken.
There is no license to fly. How can you fly?
How can you fly? How can you fly? And you're saying you can't take big action, massive action because
this aircraft should have been grounded. This aircraft should not have been flown. It was one aircraft, and if the ARC had expired, definitely the aircraft should have been grounded immediately. This is
why just grounding, sir? But my question is, why just grounding? Why just grounding? There's not a minor technical irregularity.
No, but they shouldn't have flown the aircraft till the recency check was done again.
But what action was taken, sir?
And this is just one example. I mean, there are many. I mean, Niranjan is saying it's 52-page report. There are multiple examples of how the DGCA's, very comprehensive and competitive rules were compromised by a nexus. That's what being indicated to. I mean, you can't defend that. I mean, we are not here saying that the DGCA rules are not effective. It's just that they are compromised.
Mr. Rao. Yes, Mr. Rao.
Yeah. Niranjan, the DGCA itself had conducted a surprise check. They found an auditor who is not competent to audit an aircraft, has audited it. She was on a vacation and no action was taken. 3 flights on 3 different occasions, this person has certified that aircraft and the crew to fly, and she had no powers. And she was ruling the roost from 2008. If you ask me, from 2010, I have brought this to the notice of the various high courts. In fact, the Delhi High Court is very clear that after the amendment to the aircraft rules, the DGCA has no power to give dispensation. But here we have the DGCA giving dispensation, the ministers giving dispensation. Mr. Damania says, we are a duopoly, so we can't close down an airline. Where will you set the benchmark? There has to be a benchmark. What is the point in having the rules in place if they're not going to be implemented? The government, I can understand if IndiGo couldn't operate that many flights, curtail their flights to 30%, use the crew as it was required by the new rules. Today the Delhi Division Bench of the Delhi High Court is hearing that matter. And to be very honest with you, Niranjan, the lawyers of the DGCA have been misleading the courts. Look at the temerity. Despite this order of the Delhi High Court in 2018 by the Chief Justice that DGCA has no powers to grant dispensation, they have lied to a single bench and granted dispensation to the narrow body. That was IndiGo at that point of time.
yesterday, Mr. Rao...
And today also the division bench has taken that issue up in Sarabari Roy's case.
Yeah.
Where is your right to give dispensation?
Yeah, in fact, the Supreme Court was very clear, and they said that the DGCA is sounding vague and is not helping. So I think that's why they have been asked to come back with a more thorough reply to the FDTL issue also. Look at this, Lokesh. The airlines, after all that has happened over the last 2 months, beginning with the IndiGo fiasco, still have the, what do you say, Niranjan? I mean, I'm not using a colloquialism. Still have the, I'm not using it. I have the temerity, Okay. I'm not using the colloquialism.
It's okay.
They have the temerity to still say that they can't, follow these FDTL norms, despite the fact that the Parliamentary Committee on Civil Aviation has documents to prove that these airlines have enough pilots. They're not short on pilots, just that perhaps they don't want to pay.
They don't want to pay.
Yes, good evening, everybody. 2018 was a year when India's International Civil Aviation Organization safety rankings were 102nd. And by 2022, we have achieved a rank of 48 globally, ahead of China. China is 49 with respect to civil aviation safety. The point is, there has been a lot of development that has taken place with respect to civil aviation in India. We have, sir, please let me complete. We today have 9th busiest airports. The number of flights operational, the number of airports, they have increased. We have Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik and various
many of them are getting shut also. Many of them are getting shut also, Lokesh.
Improving civil aviation significantly.
No, what you say na? Say na, many of them.
Challenges.
Stick to the science of lies.
Let me complete. There are certain challenges with respect to civil aviation safety. The DGCA has come up with stringent norms with respect to its application. We have already seen in December 2025, the DGCA pushing to implement these norms.
Lokesh Jindal, I'll tell you.
There has to be.
I'll give you.
That is required.
I will tell you something that you may not know. I will tell you something you may not know. Okay? First, I will respond to what you said. Because I have to tell you this. If I don't rebut you right here, I will be failing in my duty. Point number one. Ajit Pawar's plane crashed 30 meters away from the runway. Yeah. And when you look at the visual, it's the exact same flight Learjet 45 Bombardier that crashed in 2023 in a very eerily similar way, and we broke it yesterday. 180-degree tilt, veers to the left, exact similar crash, crashed in Mumbai, crashed in Baramati. And let me give you one more bit of information. There is no final report on the crash of 2023, which the great AAIB said it would investigate. Civil aviation safety in India is a joke. Please don't give us lecture about how India has grown in ranking. Wow. 2 crashes in 10 months. What are you talking about?
At least location.
What are you talking about?
While there has been, stupendous growth in the aviation sector, maybe the systems have not kept pace with those.
Argument, sir. Why has the ICAO improved India's ranking to 48? Why are we better than Israel? Why are we better than China?
Wow.
Because we have improved upon. Yes, we have challenges. There are a lot of infrastructural developments that are required. We are working towards
it. Let Mr. Wadia answer that. Let Mr. Wadia answer that. Mr. Wadia, he's saying why we are above Israel and China in the ICAO rankings.
Mr. Wadia.
There's a systemic deficiency. That's why, according to...
We are certainly not. That is totally being misled. And one second, let me give you a fundamental reason. We talk of DGCA as an authority of competent people who are in charge of aviation safety and standards in this country. Let me tell you one thing. The DGCA, people who are today are bureaucrats, do not even have the competence to sit on any chair in DGCA. Let me give you another example. I won't give you an opinion only. Again, the same crash that took place, mid-air collision that took place in Chakri Dadri. We had forecasted that crash in writing, told the government that this would happen. And it was dangerous. Then the DGCA see it was dangerous. Then the airport authority see it was dangerous. Did they do anything about it? No. The aircraft crashed. Even after it crashed, for 10 months after that, they did nothing much. and there were 8 near misses at that time. Also, I had recommended two issues. One is to have an independent safety board, and one is asking all airlines to keep a particular switch on the aircrafts. It took me 2 years to convince the DGCA that pilots, all aircraft should be asked to put the switch on. When the Jet Airways at that time heard what I was doing, they asked me to give them a presentation. And they are all senior pilots, examiners, instructors.
Yes.
When I asked them, do they have the switch on? They said, no, what for? It's not necessary. I convinced them and told them in less than 5 minutes, they understood what I was saying because they were professionals.
Yes.
They were aviators who could understand the same language.
Last one.
They did not understand.
All right, the story is not over yet, Niranjan. And,
Yes.
friends on the panel, you have to understand that the manner in which the airlines are really taking the DGCA for a ride is actually the passenger
Yesterday we asked a
safety.
question.
It's the passenger safety that's being taken for a ride.
Abhishek, yesterday we asked a question and I'll leave our viewers with that thought. Only because I'm short of time, Mr. Rahul. Hear me. This is a very important question. Yesterday, on the UGC norms, when the Supreme Court put them in abeyance, we asked a question. Are bureaucrats running the government?
Yes, they are. And
Yes.
they don't know that.
And that is why, sir, I'll leave you with that thought. And look at the mistake with the DGC, Abhishek. I think this is a broader question. Eerily similar. Yeah. Let's see where the story goes. The story's just been broken. We'll bring all our panelists back. We'll bring them back tomorrow because the story's just been broken. It's going to be developing. Thank you for joining us in the debate. Arnab will be back very soon. Sunday debate. Budget live. Thanks for watching.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला।
सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप।